feelings, and let me start with the women here, about Kamala Harris?
She's a woman of color. I'm not putting her down because of that, and I'm not putting her down because she's a woman. I'm not a feminist, so I'm sorry. But at the end of the day, I don't think that she has the personality. I don't think that she has what it takes to go up against Putin and go up against these other presidents that are built for this. I don't want to be scared because my president is scared. I want my president to feel secure and manly and about it.
We brought up gender, right? Like, do you think it matters that she's a woman and people aren't comfortable having a woman in a top leadership role?
No, I don't think that, because most men, they love their mothers. They love their wives. So as a woman, most men, they respect the woman, but she just don't have the qualification or the education to really run America, because she don't have the experience. She don't understand our struggles. And for me to believe you for another 4 years, you're crazy.
Right.
Like, you're crazy. You're saying the same thing that you said 4 years ago.
So the fact that she's the vice president
That's
to
just
you
the
is
bottom line.
You're like, you've been here, you've had a chance.
Yes.
Well, for me, the very first time I ever heard the name Kamala Harris, it was in association to locking up parents for truancy. That was the first time I ever heard of her name. And I really didn't understand how this person claims to be a black woman, but yet she's locking up black women and black men and separating families.
This is the thing that is, Trump talks about this a lot. He says, you know, Kamala Harris became black when it was convenient.
Right.
Yeah. Can you talk to me about, do you agree with him on that? Do you feel like she's wearing her blackness?
Absolutely. She's sworn into when she sworn to the Senate, it was as the first Indian American.
Thank you.
Which is, it's fine. We don't care.
We all know she's not black. Let's understand that. We are all clear of that. But my point of view is, like I told you earlier, she's already been there. She's in office right now.
Oh, man. Hey, gang, it's me, Dr. Steve. And if you've been with this channel for some time now, and if not, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. But you know that we've been highlighting the extraordinary paradigm shift that's underway with the Trump campaign. We've seen similar paradigm shifts and realignments happening in Europe as well, with the rise of nationalist populist candidates. But we're seeing all kinds of realignments here in the United States, where traditional demographic voting blocks are recalibrating. We've seen new alliances, traditional Republicans becoming traditional Democrats becoming Republicans. A Kennedy is now a Republican, or at least Republican aligned. Neocon rhinos are finally leaving the party in droves so they can go off and start their wars with somebody else. And we are seeing the single biggest shift among the non-white working class towards the Republicans in half a century. And that shift is happening particularly among black men, especially those under the age of 50 who are moving to Trump in droves. Now, to say it's absolutely epic would be an understatement. Joining me today to speak specifically about this issue is Jonathan McQuay. He is the national spokesman for the Stop Kamala Project. Jonathan, it's an honor to have you here. Thanks for being with us.
I appreciate you having me on today.
Oh, it's our pleasure and it's our honor. So, Jonathan, you're on the front lines. By the way, I think that clip was from Philadelphia, which is in my neck of the woods. I live 20 minutes from Biden's basement, basically. And I mean, I'm sorry, I could watch that like 20 times and it doesn't get old. Just the way you see that reporter trying to make sense. What do I do here? I've got to explain to everybody here, you're not allowed to think that way. But the genie's out of the bottle. You're on the front lines of the battle for the black vote. It's going through a remarkable paradigm shift right now. So, I mean, this is historic. From your perspective, what's going on? Why are we seeing so many black voters leaving the Democrat Party right now?
Well, I'll start by saying I'm really surprised that they posted that. I'm surprised that they allowed that to air. That's, oof, man, that made my palms sweat. It's good that we get a little good journalism coming in on the tail end of the election. But no, Black Americans are no longer buying into it. The Democrats have had a stronghold on the Black community for quite some time. And I think that them managing the economy as bad as they did is really the main factor. I mean, coupled with the fact that the majority of sanctuary cities are housed in areas that are predominantly occupied by Black people. residents of Chicago, residents of New York. I think it's a lot different for them when your cities are being flooded. And we know that they like to occasionally manipulate the numbers, but when you're boots on the ground and you're coming outside and you're seeing these migrant shelters pop up on top of the fact that you see homeless people in the streets that may possibly well look like you, I think the Democrats have managed things really poorly, and Black Americans in general are rejecting the narrative of mainstream media. I think that's also a big part of it as well. Platforms like yours allow us to digest information and get it directly without the propaganda being included. So that's a big part of it as well.
Yeah. Dang. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I from my armchair, I've read the studies that Black vote in particular is, whenever you ask, how much is border security, how important is it to you? You see the Black votes just skyrocket, huge, important. And again, that just doesn't fit the, it doesn't fit the liberal narrative. That's where, well, wait a minute now, if you're non-white, we're going to lump you onto these identity politics that are all by definition on the left, all victimized, and we're all going to be together, right? And it's like, no, wait, how about if we have a different paradigm of, hey, I'm an American. I have an obligation to this country, and this country has an obligation to me. And I don't like the fact that people who shouldn't even be here in the first place are actually getting treated better than I am, and getting job opportunities at entry level positions where they're getting $1 an hour under the table, and then disenfranchising economically citizens of the country. Are you seeing that? Is that the economy and the border sort of mixed together? It's almost like they're inseparable in what you're noticing. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's kind of tough for Democrats because, okay, so let's see, you, a white male, comments on the border is considered racism. But when you have the Black community now having a problem with it, and a big portion of your constituency, then you have to pivot. And it's almost to the point where I feel like Kamala Harris kind of didn't know what to do, so she had to outsource us getting yelled at and scolded to Obama and some of her surrogates. I feel like Obama was yelling at me like my mother. So yeah, I mean, it's getting to the point now where Black Americans are aware, and so Trump got hitting a big backlash from it when he said Black jobs, but that's just the nature of it. There's certain positions and jobs within the country that Black Americans hold at a higher capacity. So you're challenging our jobs, you're flooding our neighborhoods. For the ones that are part of the social safety net, you're also absorbing benefits.
Right, absolutely.
All the way across the board. Yeah, so you can't flood a city with millions of people and the people that live there not have some sort of negative backlash from it. So yeah, it's been really interesting to see. Immigration has been a huge one. My sister lives in Chicago, and there's a big wave of people switching parties. I'm a former Democrat myself, so I was led to the Republican platform just based off of a lot of it dealing with my Christian conservative values. But they just seem like they've lost their way, and they've really gone rogue with some of the liberal agendas.
Yeah, you and I seem to have at least a similar story. I was in college. I was a hardcore lib in college, and then had a Christian conversion, and that was part of it. I said, I can't continue to be part of this political system that's such a moral mess.
Everybody's a liberal till they have to pay taxes.
That's another one. Yes, that's a good way of putting it.
We all start a little liberal.
We all start a little liberal. That's right. Me. I want. And then when you're a conservative, wait a minute. No, I have to give. I have responsibilities. I have obligations. It's really interesting too, because in the European paradigm shift that's happening, they call it welfare chauvinism. And it's a technical term. It's a strange term, but it's a technical term where even left-wing parties, very socialist parties in Europe, are adopting the notion that only citizens can get public benefits. If you're an immigrant, you are not allowed to get a public benefit at all until you become a citizen. And it's part of the backlash even among Europeans is saying, wait a minute, guys, I'm a citizen of this country. I have obligations, but you have obligations to me, and you can't keep spending those obligations out like the poor people in Western North Carolina found out the hard way in terms of relief, right, from from FEMA. Nope, sorry, we don't have any money because we're spending too much money on illegal immigrants. So we're seeing the backlash internationally from the very same thing that's affecting the particular, or at least most intensely, the Black demographic. Jonathan, the stats I've read is that the real paradigm, and obviously you're embodying it here, the real political paradigm shift is happening among Black men under the age of 50. So we're talking upwards of 1 in 3, 30% now are turning Trump. I don't know how Republican they're turning, because Republicans always have a way of messing it up, but they're definitely going Trump. And can you corroborate that? Are you finding that there is a significant shift among first the Black male and the young Black male?
Yes, absolutely. So working with the Stop Kamala projects, our platform is for the blackpeople.com. We've had a big turnout. So kind of similar to the bet market, and some of the letters and some of the people that have reached out to us. How do you know how people really feel and if they really support the movement is if they are willing to donate their hard-earned money. So with that, also our internal numbers here, we've had some really good turnout. I'm really interested to see how the Lehigh Valley swings out in the end of things, because Black males in general, the way things look on our end is that Trump's going to capture the biggest sample size of any modern Republican, which I think is huge. And I think a big part of it is, so this is the way I always look at it, and this is I frame it to people that I have this conversation with that don't want to talk the numbers, and we talk from just ideology and platform perspective. Majority of Black males and Black people in general grow up with Christian conservative values. And then as time goes on, every 4 years, somehow we vote against those interests. So that's a big part of it. And that's usually where we start the conversation. And the Democrats, because some of their policies, I mean, we reach out. I know you got your chat going on right now. Let's reach out to the chat and see how many people want to have state-funded sex changes, or how many people want to send their hard-earned tax dollars to Ukraine. As time goes on, the Democrats have gotten so rogue and far off of populist thought process. And Black Americans, I think that we've seen the biggest turnout with them, and some of the Black males, I've been kind of astonished, honestly, in the process of doing this, is just because the trickle-down effect. So they feel it the worst when it comes to jobs, when it comes to housing, when it comes to all these basic necessities. And then on top of it, we are positioned in a spot where we have no leverage because it's assumed that the Democrats will get our vote. So I think that they will see this will be a huge shift. And I'm hoping it's something that will be a permanent fixture moving forward.
A real realignment. A definite
realignment.
Yeah, that would be we'd be unstoppable, and we have a true populist realignment there. Yeah, I've always populism redefines the political divide. The political divide is usually left versus right, liberal versus conservative, or they'll do it racially, white versus Black, all that. But the populists, they just flip that divide on its head, and they move the horizontal divide to a vertical divide: people versus political class, the ruled versus rulers, the ordinary American versus the oligarch. It's really interesting because I find I know a lot of people that do not like Trump. And when I kind of probe as to why that is, I find that they're still thinking like they measure his rhetoric with the horizontal divide. So, he's a fascist and he's a Nazi and all that.
CNN talking points is what you're saying, right?
CNN talking points, when all said and done, CNN talking points. Yeah. And then when I said, no, but what if we were to do this? What if we were to say, don't look at him in the horizontal divide? How about if it's people versus political class? How about if it's Americans versus globalists, a globalist managerial elite? Now does it sound a little different? And I've noticed people, I never thought about it that way, kind of stuff. And that's that political realignment that is so, I mean,
what we call it record versus rhetoric. And you're right. So in these conversations that I'm having, Democrats are really good at marketing and mechanics. So they own the news and they own sometimes the narrative a lot of times. But like you said, the perfect example is when you flip it upside down. So I always like to start with the numbers, especially when I'm dealing with individuals or Black or minorities. I show them. So from 2022 to now, the Black wealth gap has exploded. Things like the Black unemployment rate. Men lie, women lie, they lie, them lie, but the numbers do not. So when you look at the numbers, you can't say that the Democrats are for Black people, and then adversely that Trump is against them when Black individuals in general were doing far better, as were the rest of Americans. And you almost have to look at it like that. You have to frame it like that. I like to bring the analogy of going to work, where, okay, we're going to a boss that smiles every day and he shakes your hand and he's real nice, but the pay's bad. He's bringing in third-party workers that are messing up the workplace. Do you work for that guy, or do you work for the guy that doesn't say much and sits in his office and maybe is a little boisterous in how he handles things, but your life are better, you're able to provide for your family, there's upward trajectory. I frame it in that way a lot of times, and sometimes it's a little more obtainable for people to kind of understand and grasp that concept.
Yeah, it's more relatable. Yeah, no, I like that. Yeah, I like that a lot. Do you think this election is going to be different from years past? We've seen the Black vote. We've seen some very promising numbers, sort of that 30% support for the Republican. But it receded. By the time you get to the elections, we go back to, it goes back to like the 10. I guess it's the stats I've looked at. It's 60% Black women, 40% Black men. So even if the men are moving more in a general electorate, even if Black men are moving more the Republicans, it tends to get diluted by the majority of Black women. So it tends to go down to, at best, maybe 10%, 8% support Republican. Do you think this year's different? Do you think this is it? We're going to really start to see the breakthrough?
I do. I hope you're sitting down. I hope your viewers are sitting down. With the group that we're dealing with, and for the blackpeople.com, we're looking at about 20%. That's the number. 20%. I know that's a big number.
That's double.
Yeah, I'm really feeling it. We've gotten some positive feedbacks, and people have been really inclined to share it. At one point, when I started this mission, I've been working on this for years, but the last 6 months to a year, people were a little hesitant to talk. I mean, as a Black American, there's a lot of pressure, as you can imagine, in social issues when it comes to when you start to think a different way. But we've had a bunch of support, and I've had conversations with thousands of people, and this spans across a lot of different swing states. And the way it looks from our internal polling, we're looking at about 20%. Book it.
That it is
you heard
awesome.
It here first.
I love it. I love it because I think it aligns with Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. Oh, what state was he? I can't even remember what state it was that he was polling. Well, a particular, I think it was a particular or a group of states. Mm-hmm. And again, it was the 60-40 breakdown: women, men, Black women, Black men. Trump was 1 in 3 with Black men. And he had gained among Black women. He actually gained in 2020. I did not know that among Black women. But yeah, it was hitting like 12, 13, 14%, something like that, Black women. So when you aggregate it out, that's exactly, I think he had it right around 20%. So there's some corroboration for you, man. That is, yeah. Now, if that's true, dude, if that's true, Kamala's toast.
Yeah. I mean, that's even if we're talking 15, 16, we're thinking in that range. And we've branched off with this project, and we've gone into some other demographics, specifically Hispanic voters, and we're seeing a pretty good turn on that. It's kind of hard to grasp. We haven't put as much mechanics into that to see, but it's looking good support. There's actually a rally. I'm not sure if you're aware. So I'm in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and Trump has a rally across the street. So I was boots on the ground this morning, and we had some other interviews going on, and it's the greatest feeling ever to see the support. I was kind of interested to see Lehigh Valley is in the city, and as we always know, city areas always tend to sway a little blue. But the amount of support in a pretty or formerly pretty democratic area, it's pretty awesome. So there's different shades. I'm really interested to see how liberal news covers it later. Small rally in Allentown, or what kind of soundbite they take out of it, but it's a beautiful thing going on outside. After this interview, I'm gonna head outside and rally up. So
oh, that's awesome. That's right. Puerto Ricans most affected. Let's
the Hispanic voters outside. We have a huge demographic of Hispanic voters in Allentown, and that's the part that really caught me off guard. all different shapes, sizes, colors,
Oh yeah,
creeds,
yeah.
religions. So
Oh, it's
it's looking
beautiful.
good.
That's the thing
I'm
about it.
feeling
Yeah.
I'm feeling real good about it. The red wave is coming.
Oh man, that's awesome. I'm curious. You mentioned the now infamous Obama tongue lashing in Pittsburgh a few weeks back. How would you characterize the Democrats' attempt at trying to, I mean, obviously pretty desperately galvanize black voters in this campaign cycle? I mean, that's the way it came across to me with Obama. He was upset. He's, what are you doing? Why am I even having to lecture you here? It's like, how would you characterize the Democrats' attempt to galvanize the black vote?
I think it kind of shows that they're losing their footing. So they took some time and they were presenting a more positive message for some time. So when Biden was in, it was the Hitler rhetoric, it was the doomsday, the boogeyman. And when Kamala transitioned, they tried to take it a more positive direction. And she tried to trickle in a little bit of policy. But I think now that they've backed into the corner, they're going back to the boogeyman rhetoric. So I think it really shows their card in the sense that they're bringing out all the big guns. When I seen that Beyonce was coming out, I was waiting for it. I was like, how long before Taylor Swift and Beyonce come out? That's when we'll know where we stand. And I mean, as much as it could be a little interesting to the other side, I think that it's a good sign for the Republicans if they're going to bring out the big dogs. The final boss is coming out to do the final scolding to cancel Christmas. So I think that tells a story in itself. I'm seeing Michelle Obama and Barack Obama on my TV every night yelling at me. So
Yeah.
it tells a story. It tells a story. And they don't seem very happy. He looked pissed.
Yeah, he does. He looks pissed. And yeah, right. There is I think he has obviously very sophisticated political sense. I think he's getting a sense there is a paradigm shift happening here, and he doesn't. There's no stopping to it. Stopping it. Mm-hmm. It's bigger than any one person. That's we'll have to see how he reacts to it. But Jonathan, what can our listeners do to help you and the work, the amazing work you're doing at Stop Kamala campaign?
Please visit the website. The website it's a comprehensive spreadsheet of information. I feel like I've spoke about it prior. The media is tough sometimes, and we all know it's very one-sided. So our website gives your viewers and everybody out there an opportunity to go look at the data, see it for yourself, and it gives people an opportunity to have some insight on what Kamala and Joe Biden have been up to. It's not that they didn't do anything, but they raised money to send to Ukraine. They raise money to stimulate job growth in Honduras and Mexico and a bunch of other things. So you should be aware of that before you cast your ballot. So visit fortheblackpeople.com and the Stop Kamala Project.
It's awesome. And gang, the link is down below.
I want to share something with you real quick. There was a vendor outside and I thought this was pretty cool. So
I love it.
Yeah, man. Fight. I appreciate you having me on, boss.
Oh, Jonathan, it's our pleasure. Gang, make sure you click on that link below or visit the site directly, fortheblackpeople.com, fortheblackpeople.com. Let's help Jonathan help Donald Trump get elected to his most epic landslide ever. You're the best, Jonathan. Please come back soon.
Absolutely.